Bill Nye caused some controversy this week when he spoke about climate change with the LA Times. Here's the interesting portion that's getting some backlash. This is from the LA Times questioner. This poll finds that some people say they have a negative impact on the way things are going, and it seems to me that we are in retreat in some ways from having any regard for knowledge. And Nye responds, "This is it, the so-called experts. What do they know? They're experts, for crying out loud. One's intuition about climate change is not as good as facts about climate change. What keeps the United States competitive in the economic sphere is innovation and new ideas. And new ideas come from science. It just sounds like people are scared. It just sounds like people are afraid, and the people who are afraid in general, with due respect, and I am now one of them, are older. Climate change deniers, by the way, are older. It's generational. So we're just going to have to wait for those people to age out, as they say. Age out is a euphemism for die. But it'll happen. I guarantee you that'll happen." Now, various incredibly hacky right-wing media outlets are trying to spin this and misinterpret it on purpose to say that, like, Bill Nye wants all climate change deniers to die, and they should die. Right, yeah, Bill Nye is calling for a fucking genocide, you monumental morons. Listening to it in context, no, what he's saying is, very simply, hey, it's the older people who don't believe in climate change, they think it's a hoax, so as time goes by, they are going to pass away, and then younger generations will be able to effectively combat the issue. That's the argument he's making. He's not saying, oh, yes, I can't wait for people to die. He's saying it's a generational thing that older generations are more likely to not believe in climate science and that it is a matter of fact that they will die out. And then he thinks it's a matter of fact that the younger generation will address it in a more efficient way. So, man, the headlines over this have been infuriating, and it's just flat out of context and a purposeful misinterpretation, and it's so stupid. So if you're one of the people who's on that, in that camp of, yeah, Bill Nye wants a genocide or some shit, you're being ridiculous. And I think you know that on some level. But here's the interesting little twist in the story from my perspective, which is I actually don't agree with him that the younger generation is going to get it sorted out. Because he's missing one massive factor, which is money in politics. So it is true that the beliefs of the younger generation are more in line with science, and we're more likely to believe the scientists and the experts and say, yeah, I think they're right, and I think we should do something about it. But the problem is, it almost doesn't matter what your opinion is. When big money infects the political system, well, then there's a filtration system, and the people that are going to get elected are going to be the people who raise the most big money, and one of the biggest fundraisers is big oil and the energy companies. So as long as you have money in politics, you're going to have people in Washington beholden to the big oil companies, among other corporations. And it doesn't matter if the younger generation is much more in favor of doing something to fight climate change. Our politics is going to be held back by the big money in the system. Think about it through the realm of the minimum wage. 80% of Americans want to raise the minimum wage. So by Bill Nye's logic, well, what do you mean? Everybody wants to do it, so now we're going to be able to address it. Except we're not, because corporations own our politicians. So even with 80% of the American people on the side of raising the wages, we still haven't gotten a minimum wage increase since all the way back under George W. Bush. So it's not the only factor, the beliefs of the people. Probably the biggest factor is money in politics, and we got to get that out. And, ExxonMobil, BP, Chevron, you name it. We need to get their influence out of politics. And the only way to do that in a serious way is clean elections by law and a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics. So he's right that the younger generation is more in favor of science and we accept it more, but he's wrong that necessitates we're definitely going to do something to fix the problem. And unfortunately, we already may be at the point where we're past the point of no return when it comes to climate change.